Hi, my name is Christine, and today I will be discussing the effectiveness of unit plans. Um, so, one thing that I've learned is that unit plans should be standards driven. We should know exactly what we want our students to learn. We should use the backward planning method where you start with the end in mind. We are focusing on what we want students to learn, what do we want them to understand, and how we expect them to show that understanding. Assessments can be both formative or summative to see if they've learned exactly what you wanted them to learn. You should come up with measurable objectives. Your objectives should be aligned with the standards that you are teaching. They should also be assessed to see if the children have mastered those skills that you are incorporating in those unit plans. And then your learning activities should also align with the objectives as well as the standard and the assessments that you are going um, to give at the end of the unit. I observed teachers in my school, and from my observations, the unit plans are basically um, completed by the district, and they do use the backward planning method. So teachers are informed of what will be taught and how it will be taught, what the students are expected to know when the unit is over, as well as how they will be assessed to show their understanding. So the characteristics of effective lessons and unit plans were very evident in the classrooms that I observed both on video as well as in person. Some of the things that I saw was evidence of planning. The classrooms were well prepared. The lessons were well prepared, well organized. The teacher was very knowledgeable about the content. The lessons included differentiation, standards based. The students were highly engaged. You could clearly tell that the students' interests and readiness levels were taken into account when the lessons were planned. Evidence of planning included the assessments that were used. The teacher used formative assessments to assess students' learning using various check for understandings, exit tickets. Some of the summative assessments that were used were midterm or end of the unit assessments. I observed students being assessed in math. I also observed teachers using the formative assessment of a checklist. They would use observations, ask children questions, and record their oral responses on a checklist. I also saw children being progress monitored using DIBELS and TRCs. These seem to be very good tools to assess student learning. I did not observe any assessment tools that were ineffective, but I would say an ineffective assessment tool would be something that does not assess students' learning. Um, for example, a short check for understanding where all students really don't respond and then the teacher moves on. I don't think that would be an effective tool to assess student learning. Um, for my kindergarten students to necessarily give them a pencil paper assessment, that would not necessarily be an effective tool for them because of their age. Another characteristic of effective unit plans were high expectations. The teachers I observed had very high expectations for their students. The material that was being presented was rigorous and challenging for the students to move to the next level. I saw that the teachers were meeting the needs of their individual learners. One student is has a special need, and it was very evident that that teacher did whatever she could to help that student um, meet those goals, meet the master the skill. The lessons were differentiated. to meet the needs of their learners. I also saw students fully engaged. The children were having so much fun learning. The teachers made sure that the children's readiness levels were appropriate for the reading or the math activities that were taking place in the classroom. The children were highly engaged because they were very interested in the material that was being presented. Some of the effective teaching strategies that I saw in the classrooms or on the videos were TLAC strategies. One specific strategy was 100%. Teachers found fun, engaging ways to make sure that all scholars were on task. Another strategy that I noticed that comes from the TLAC book is Right is Right. Teachers did not allow students to give partial correct answers. They held out for the 100% correct answer. Other strategies that I noticed was various scaffolding strategies. Teachers use prompts, questions, cues. They made sure that children had pictures and various visuals so that they could understand the material. One teacher was reading a book on autism, and then she presented a video to kind of help the children understand autism in a different way. So I thought that was a great scaffold. I saw a lot of turns and talks, think pairs and shares, pre-teaching vocabulary, doing read alouds. And then I also saw a lot of small group instruction, which differentiated instruction for the different students' readiness level. And then I also saw high impact strategies, graphic organizers, comparing and contrasting things that were similar and different. They stated the objectives before the lessons to prepare the students for what they were about to learn. Teachers assigned homework to practice various skills. And then one of my favorite high impact strategies is cooperative learning group. Children really enjoy helping one another. As I reflect on my own unit and lesson planning process, I am reminded that backward planning is one of the most effective ways to plan my lessons. I always start with the end in mind. So I focused on the assessment and how I will assess student learning. What do I want them to get out of this lesson? And that's what I focus on first. Using the standards that are given by DC Public Schools, I use those standards as one of my guiding documents to help me to understand where the children should be at any given time and what standards should be taught. Using formative and summative assessments, I assess my student learning using various check for understandings. We love using a thumbs up, thumbs down to check for understanding. We also, I am one of those teachers who walk around with a clipboard and a piece of paper at all times, jotting down notes on what I've observed from my scholars and to see where their level of understanding is at any given time. I also use a checklist. I always want my lessons to be fully engaging. If my children are not having fun, then I'm not having fun teaching. So we play lots of games. Our small group instruction is where we have children in learning centers, and I am doing guided reading or guided math lessons, and the children are engaged in game-based learning. We also do mobile learning. The children are using computers to choose reading books for their grade level, and they read those texts using laptop computers. And then project-based learning takes place quite frequently. After each unit, there's a big project that is required based on the unit. This unit, our students will be creating their own books based on skills that we've taught as it relates to characters, settings, and the plot of a story. So they will be creating their own. Some very effective strategies that I use in my classroom. relate to high impact. My children enjoy homework because I make it fun. So, homework assignments where they practice the skills that have been taught in class. Graphic organizers, we use those almost every single day for the different activities that we um, engage in. I constantly reinforce their effort and give positive praise. Another effective strategy is TLAC. I love the TLAC strategies, teach like a champion. And I'll just focus on one. Format matters. When we talk in our classroom, we speak in complete sentences. I also do a lot of scaffolds, prompts, hints. Think pairs and shares. We do tons of turn and talks. Before I send the children off to themselves, I model everything. And then the last, one of the most effective strategies of all is differentiation, making sure that children are being given the tools that they need to be successful in learning. So making sure that I present the material on their readiness level and give them every opportunity to access the material on their own level. Thank you and have a great day.